Well, early voting for the August 11th primary starts this Friday, one of the most watched races, the very tight contest for governor on the Republican side. This past week, a poll released by Survey USA and KSTP showed that Mike Lindell is leading that race 27% to 22% for House Speaker Lisa Demuth to 17% for businessman Kendall Qualls. The margin of error there, 5.4%. Joining me now is House Speaker Lisa Demuth. Thank you so much for coming in.
Good morning, Esme.
And shout out to your husband for Happy Father's Day and happy birthday.
Yes, absolutely. Happy birthday to my husband.
He's in the studio. I'll drive you down. So we really appreciate you, Nick, for doing that. Let me ask you about that poll. Let's put that poll back up again. Do you think this is really the way it is? Is Mike Lindell ahead of you in this race?
You know, Esme, when we look at polls, and obviously there are a lot of them coming out right now, you always have to look at that margin of error, who was polled, how many, and then ask yourself, does that really reflect? There were other polls that came out that showed Mike Lindell in a certain spot, but what I will say is when you looked at the dislike or disapprove number, he was very high, where I had a very small dislike part. So right now we're just kind of watching polls as they go forward. Right. Either way, Minnesotans have said we need a change here in our state. I am running to beat Amy Klobuchar in November. I need to get through the primary to get on that ballot. And like you said, early voting is June 26th.
All right. You have said that obviously you were running. The contest is coming up here. One of the things that people want to ask you is, why did you decide to stay in the race when you had said that you wouldn't stay in the race if you didn't get the endorsement?
Yeah, great question. So I had said that I would abide by the endorsement, and I've always had the endorsement, gratefully, for my legislative races that I've won. And so when you look at what happened at the state convention, you know, people are looking at that. But what happened is there was enough question with the technology that was being used that prompted the state party chair to come out 2 days after the convention and say, we're not going to hold people to abiding by the endorsement, because even though we think things are okay, there were some problems, and so we're going to go ahead and release people. That was what prompted my decision to file the next morning for the primary.
Now, talking about endorsements, you have said before that you would love to have President Trump's endorsement. Is that still true?
I'd be open to that. We never know what President Trump is going to do with endorsements or what states he might even be looking at. We don't know if Minnesota is on his radar, but I know that Minnesotans need a change. I've been able to prove that I'm a great leader as far as in the House of Representatives, as Speaker of the House, getting good things done for Minnesotans in the closely divided legislature, but an exact tie in the House of Representatives.
Well, the president does seem to talk a lot about Minnesota, and one thing he did say, it wasn't an endorsement, he did say Mike Lindell, quote, deserves to be governor of Minnesota. Do you think that has helped Mike Lindell? And I mean, it can't hurt. And are you worried about that?
I'm not worried about it, but I know that the DOJ and the feds have really looked at Minnesota because of the level of fraud that we have here in the state of Minnesota. You saw additional charges being brought even over the last few weeks. And so when you think that we have had $10 billion of fraud in this state, that's taxpayer dollars, and people are frustrated with that. I'm grateful for the feds coming in and doing the work to investigate these fraud charges and really bring an end to that in a place that, even as Speaker of the House, we passed the Office of Inspector General bill, but we didn't have any law enforcement capabilities before to handle any of the fraud. I'm grateful for the work of the feds and the DOJ, but now with that OIG and some of the other things, Minnesota should be turning around, and I think it's going to happen.
Is it over? Is it done with? Because every time it seems to be over, this fraud cycle, a new wave comes up.
You know, I don't think it's done yet. I think we continually are uncovering additional fraud that has been kept at bay, hidden, or whatever the case is. A lot of times it's a lack of internal controls. You've seen other agencies now try to put some of those internal controls back into place, but Minnesotans want their tax dollars protected. I have committed to doing that. That's why I established the Fraud Prevention and Agency Oversight Committee when I became Speaker. And so we've got to make sure that taxpayer dollars are going to those that need it, and that Minnesotans can keep their tax dollars instead of sending it to a government that hasn't been responsible with it.
All right, let's talk about electability, because another poll, a KARE 11 poll, showed that 48% to 40%, that's a head-to-head with you and Amy Klobuchar. 8 points, a significant lead, but that is the best that any of the candidates did against Amy Klobuchar in this particular poll. 8 points, there's a margin of error there. Also, when we take a look at the financing of the 3 Republican candidates, you have over $500,000. Kendall Qualls has $40,000. Mike Lindell, just over $11,000. Yes. Does that matter? Do those things matter?
Raising money for campaigns, we have to do that. That's how you get your message out to voters across the state. With our early voting starting on June 26th, voters need to know that, and they need to know about me as a candidate. So having those dollars as far as the highest cash on hand of anyone compared to the other Republican candidates does matter. As far as when you look at the Amy Klobuchar, where she is sitting at that 48%, that's really her ceiling. When it comes to polling, that is her ceiling.
It is the lowest. I mean, in terms of polling, Amy Klobuchar has done very well in her career. I mean, just huge margins. That's a small margin for in Amy Klobuchar's world. Anybody else would be happy with it, but in her world, that is a small margin.
Very, very small margin. And Minnesotans are looking at any Democrat right now running for governor as part of the Democrat machine that has allowed fraud and put our taxes out of control. Spent an $18 billion surplus. Minnesotans said in the 24 election, when it was just the House on the ballot, the House representative seats were the only thing on the ballot. Minnesotans said we want at least a tie, and we survived the tie.
You got the tie.
We did, but it broke the Democrat trifecta. And so hearing that from Minnesotans back in 24, before fraud was as well known as it is, they are looking for a change, and I'm ready to lead that charge. This is Minnesota's comeback, and I'm ready for it.
And I know you're welcoming the early voting. You're urging people to get out there and vote early, which is different than some Republicans. So we appreciate it.
It's the law. Yeah. It is legal to do that, so why wouldn't we take advantage of it? So I'm encouraging people, June 26th up until August 11th. On Friday, yes.
All right. Well, thank you so much, House Speaker Lisa Demuth. Thank you to your husband and campaign manager Hank for driving down here with you from Cold Spring. We appreciate it.
Always great to talk with you.